Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Counterpoint here all along the Armstrong Network. My name is Cornel Bogdan, but even more important, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Norman Nardini.
Dear beloved, we gather together here in Youngstown, Ohio. The high priest, Church of Rock and Roll, east side of Pittsfield, Pennsylvania, touching you up. We're going to lick him up here today. We're going to have some type of din-din. Lick him up, lick him up. Mr. Cornel Bogdan went in the kitchen, got a black frying pan, put in some lard, cooked up some type of cornbread. Nene making cornbread, she frying in the pan. Every time she serve it up, somebody wind up in a can. All my neighbors and family say they wanna lick it up. Nene making cornbread, she don't ever make enough. Nene making cornbread, Ray dropping by, smelling like cigarettes, French fries. Ray said that cornbread, that's the mostest thing he loved. Nene making cornbread, she don't ever make enough. Nene making cornbread, Lucy gonna stop with a jar of the shine and a liter of pop. Lucy says she hungry and it's gonna get rough. Nene making cornbread, but she didn't make enough. She don't make enough. She don't ever make enough. How? Cornbread, you can smell it in the kitchen. Cornbread, folks are finger licking. Cornbread, sure enough, delicious. Nene made cornbread, Ray took a bite. Lucy slapped stupid. They began to fight. Then Lucy shot Ray cause he wouldn't share the stuff. Nene made the cornbread, but she didn't make enough. Nene made the cornbread, that's what they told the cops. Judge said Nene guilty. Just let Lucy walk, said cornbread so good it's a crime you can't stop. Nene made the cornbread, but she didn't make enough. Now Nene made cornbread at the penitentiary, Ray in the ground, and Lucy walking free. And the warden tell the guards to watch your cronies at lunch, cause Nene made a cornbread, and she don't ever make enough. She don't make enough. She don't ever make enough. Ho! Cornbread, you can smell it in the kitchen. Cornbread, folks are finger licking. Cornbread, sure enough, delicious. Hey! Woo! Hey! Woo! Ha! What up? What up? Feel me now. Sure enough delicious. Sure enough delicious. Sure enough delicious. Sure enough alright. Sure enough delicious. Sure enough. Sure enough. Sure enough delicious. Woo! Sure enough delicious. Hey! Cornbread, well,
Are you okay?
how you doing?
Sit, my brother. You know, what I'm hoping for, Norman, is during today's show, you'll come out of your shell.
You can make me do that, I think.
I love Larry, man.
How about Larry Seifers?
Introduce Larry real quick.
Mr. Larry Seifers, we've been playing together since the 1970s on and off. He's beautiful. He only brought his piano today, but he's a wonderful, very soulful, meaty, delicious saxophone blower, tenor sax. Plays some great blues harp. He got this damn flute that he brings around, but we don't say nothing, but what are you gonna do? Other than that, he's kind of perfect.
Yeah. Larry, thank you for being here. Norman, welcome.
Always. I miss
you. Let's see, 1979 we first met?
79.
Yeah, 1979 we first met, and one thing about Norman Nardini and the Pittsburgh tradition of his brand of music, I don't like to call it rock and roll, I don't like to call it country, I don't like to call it rockabilly, I don't like to call it blues, because he has this combination of music, ladies and gentlemen, that is second to none. I'm saying this because he's my bud, but also he is a musician's musician. You're probably one of the only guys that I know, regional star, who you don't have a real job.
No, it never worked.
You've never had a day job?
Well, when I went to music school, I had to wash dishes until I got enough money to buy an amp.
Okay, and how old were you?
19, I was probably 20.
Okay, so 20 years old was the last time you actually had a day job?
Pretty much. Yeah,
Giddy
it never
up,
worked.
man. Giddy
when
up.
I got out of college, I started playing in lounge bands, and I couldn't handle that. I wasn't built for that. Then I started working at the studio, like as a janitor, and then I started doing productions and writing lead sheets and playing different instruments on novelty records, and then we started producing product. And from that time on, 1975. I was in the Diamonds. I was playing bass for Diamond Rio. And we started touring around, with the major bands of that time, the Kisses and Nugents and Blue Oyster Cults and Kansas and all them acts.
Wow.
We were playing with them starting in 1975 when I started being Norman in 79.
Okay, so 75 you were in Diamond Rio.
Yep.
That went on till 1979, and then that's when you put together Norman Nardini and the Tigers?
Yep.
Or was it just Norman by himself?
No, it was actually, at first it was Norman Nardini and the East Side Tigers.
Okay.
Was the original name of the band. And Warren King was still playing with me at that time. But he was in the Silencers, which was a real high-level Pittsburgh band, with Frank Zori, Warren and Frank were with me in the Diamonds, and I left the Diamonds to do my thing, and they became the Silencers.
Let's go back to that 70s, mid-70s, and all the way through the early 80s. Just mention some of the people that you have opened for, played with. You mentioned Kiss, Ted Nugent.
Well, the cool thing about Kiss was that we played, when I was in the Diamonds, we opened for Kiss when they cut the Kiss Alive album.
Okay.
And that was at Cobo Hall in Detroit City. And we stayed in the same hotel as Kiss did. And I thought I had a lot of experiences in my life with that. I thought I knew a lot about life.
Yeah, forget about it.
But that night, opening, it's like I seen stuff that to this day I'm like, man, I've done some living. But yeah, we did with Kiss, and it's crazy. I've told you before that actually, in the early 70s, I played guitar for Big Mama Thornton for a week up in Boston.
See, this is one of my favorite stories, ladies and gentlemen. You know what kind of blues fan I am, and I make Norman tell me this story all the time. You were going to school in Boston.
I was going to Berklee School of Music, and I was with a little girl. We went to see Big Mama Thornton like on Monday night, and she was going to be there Monday through Saturday.
And Big Mama Thornton, if you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, look it up. Look it up. Important part of your music history lesson. Yep. Lady wrote and sang Hound Dog before Elvis ever got a hold of it.
Yes.
But anyway, so she's performing in Boston. You're young and impressionable. You're walking around with your girl, and what happens?
Well, she didn't have a guitar player. And she had George Harmonica Smith playing harp, who I had, because I was a blues fan as a kid. So I knew what was going on there was significant, and I knew I was not worthy. But I went up to her and I said, I see you don't have a guitar player. I play guitar, man. I'd love to play with you.
Do you realize how cocky that was to do that?
I didn't even think of it. I mean, I knew I was out of my league. And there was no question I didn't deserve to be on stage with those folks. She had this bass player, too. I think he was half black and half Indian. He played a Telecaster bass. I don't know what his name was. But I remember him to this day as being the band leader and just being killer. I'd love to know who he was, And, but yes, she said, come to the hotel the next day for rehearsal. And I didn't think, these people don't rehearse. She was jerking me around. So I showed up at the hotel, no one was there. So I went back to the gig on Tuesday night and says, I went to the hotel to come to rehearsal.
Yeah.
And she says, hey, whatever, man. Hey, man. I says, well, I'd love to play with you guys. She says, set your stuff up. She says, if you can play, you can play. If you can't, I'll throw you off the stage. And she just let me play.
That was your audition?
I just played for the week.
You just played?
Yeah, I just joined the band for the week. And
See, I didn't know that.
She didn't throw me off the
part
stage.
of it.
Yeah, she didn't throw me off the stage, so I was in. But the crazy thing is, I wouldn't go in the dressing room with them because I was afraid. You know, I was just this little guy. She called me Hound Dog Guru. I had real long hair, and I was real pretty at the time. But I opened the door to the dressing room. When I pushed the door open, I hit her in the back, and she had a little flask of whiskey, or like vodka. And it went all over her face, and she looked back and saw me, and I just turned around and kind of ran away.
Yeah. And now back in the day, most of those performers, they used to play at least 2 gigs a night. So were you playing an early show or a later show, or was this 1 show a night?
Well, we'd play like 3 sets.
3 sets, okay.
Yeah, 3, and it was at the Jazz Workshop, which was in the same building and just down the hall from another club called Paul's Mall. So in this Jazz Workshop, I saw Muddy Waters up from here, maybe 3 feet over. That's how far I was from him. His whole set, he had Lafayette Lake on piano. I seen Miles Davis when Bitches Brew come out. And I'm like, once again, just a couple of feet away from him. I mean, I seen Kenny Burrell.
Norman,
in that room.
How many times have I said to you over the years, when are you going to write a book?
Well, you know, people keep talking about it.
And you've heard that before, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. And you know what? I'm getting into writing.
Your mind is incredible, what you remember, what you can recollect.
I've done some living.
Yeah.
I've done some living. And I'm starting to learn how to write. You know, as I develop my songwriting skills, I'm starting to feel like I'm becoming the type of songwriter that I always wished I could but never thought I could. And so that's making me believe I can do other things. And maybe I could write a book that would be interesting. And I'd like to talk about my family, you know, my parents, how cool they were, you know, first generation Italians, and tell their story a little bit, and talk about a lot of the musicians I work. You know, Warren King was a guy I played with when we were young who was I remember we were playing in Texas, and this was 1976, I think, and Ted Nugent, we were opening for him, and he had this guy named Bugsy something. He played with a big band, and he just got out of jail. And him and Ted were on stage having a guitar battle, because Ted used to like to do that. He'd rig them so he won every one. But when they were doing it, Warren, who was so massive, he took a little Fender, they were playing through all their giant amps, he took a little Fender concert out on stage and just started playing while they were playing, uninvited. And the whole attention of the room went to Warren.
Wow.
Because he had so much steam and so much heat in his playing. And the other guys, you know, they played well. You know, like when he played, there was this fire and this intensity that you couldn't step away from it. And Warren was just, the whole room was focusing on him. And he was like a beautiful little sunflower up there. And Ted had his guy says, get him off the stage.
Move him on.
Yeah, he got him up. They came in and said, dude, like the hook, you know.
That's enough of that.
And we were like, Fish, you're so cool. Dude, you're our hero. But I mean, I seen it happen. It was just so much fun to be a part of.
Well, where I first met Norman was with his band, Norman Nardini and the Tigers. When you're on this show, unfortunately, Norm, it's low budget. Everybody who has been on here, we make them play. You know, it doesn't matter what kind of awards you have won, you got to work, okay? So I'm going to make you go back to the days of Norman Nardini and the Tigers, and if you would, if you'd be so kind and grace us with a tune called Burning Up.
Just for you. Wrote this with Warren King. Got a drink in my hand, waiting for my man. I'm burning up, burning up. And there's some chick at the bar, I think she wants to scar. And I'm burning up, burning up. Then my band gets in the groove. Got to bust a move, do my stuff. Bop, 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 bop. And I've been feeling like a bitch, 'cause I ain't struck it rich. I'm burning up. I'm burning up. I'm burning. Might start a fire. Burning up. I'm burning up. Gotta bust a move tonight. Burning up. I'm burning up. Burning up. I'm burning up. All this heavy poverty, insecurities, I'm burning up. And after what they've done to me, I'm down here on my knees, I'm burning up. And I keep making up these songs, you could sing along. I'm burning up, burning. And I've been doing it for years. Before you always hear, I'm burning up. What? I'm burning up. I'm burning. I started fighting. Burning up. I'm burning. Gotta get on tonight. Burning up. I'm burning up. I'm burning up. Hit me.
That was 1978.
Written.
And first time you recorded it?
78. I cut a rhythm track. I was still in the Diamonds when I cut the rhythm track. And actually, when we wrote it, Warren and I wrote it together, it had different words. And the singer in the Diamonds didn't like the song. It was called All Around the World.
Oh.
Like the Willie John song.
Okay.
Same title, but not the same song. And
he didn't want to sing it.
He wouldn't sing it. And I'd call it on stage, because I would call the tunes. And I'd call it, and he'd go, I ain't singing that, It's called something else. And so finally one night I called, he said, I ain't singing that. I says, hey, do you mind if I sing it? And I had written the new words to Burning Up, to that track. And I sang it, and it's the first time I sung it. Meanwhile, the singer, this guy was Frank Zora. He's a great singer, still around today, fantastic. People loved it when I sang it. And that's when I started thinking, you know what, maybe I could
do this thing.
It might be time for me to
bring
it to the people. Step up, be somebody.
Well, I'm sitting in a nightclub one night, and I'm watching MTV back when they actually played videos before 16 and Pregnant and all of those other things. They actually played videos, and they broke artists, and it was exciting.
It was a great time.
And I'm sitting there, and I'm watching videos, and all of a sudden music was coming to life. And I look up, and I see my buddy Norman Nardini on MTV.
Little Big Mouth.
And not only did you have a video playing, but you would host You were like one of the guest VJs?
Well, they let me do a little thing, yeah. They let me do a thing.
And what song? Tell everybody.
At the time, we had a record out. It was called If You Don't Want Me, Somebody Will.
Right.
And we did a wonderful video, black and white video of it. And my father was in that video. And to this day, that's what I remember most about the video. There were some beautiful, young ladies.
You can see it on YouTube. Go ahead.
But the thing I remember about it, the guy that played the bartender in the bar scene that where we filmed it was my father, and I think of that to this day, and I just think about how cool it was that I could have him there for that.
What label were you on?
I was on a label called CBS Associated, which was Columbia.
Right.
Epic.
Right.
But it was the Epic side of Columbia, and Tony Martell ran the label, and I did 2 albums for CBS. And after I did my second album, he says we're gonna have to let you go. You haven't made enough juice happen. And I says to him, is there anything I could do to stick around for one more record? He says, I have an idea. He said, if you could get this lady to manage you, I'd give you a deal for another record. And I said, who's the lady? He said, Sharon Osbourne. Because at the time, she had just come over from England.
Right.
And she had revived Ozzy.
Yeah, and she was also signing a whole bunch of artists.
And they knew that she was going to have success.
Right.
Tony knew. And he said, if you can get her into you, I'll give you another record deal. And I couldn't get her interested in me.
But the video